Hello again, everyone. Today we will be working on the parts of cells notes. So we're going into lesson 2 of the second chapter. So chapter 2, lesson 2, as you can see on the slide over there. This is going to be focusing on the different parts of the cell and what they do and how they work together. So we're going to be using this presentation to fill out the note sheet that I've got for you over here. Okay, so you may want to have this set up in split screen or perhaps even smaller like this, so you've got a little more space to write. Okay, so this document, the cell parts notes, can be found in Schoology. You will be turning this in. It's going to be a 2-day assignment. You have Monday and Tuesday of this week to work on that. And then in the second half of the week, we'll be working on building a cell model that you'll get to design yourself. So we're going to start off by looking at two of the statements that you would have looked at in the worksheet we did early last week, where you had to say whether you agreed or disagreed with things. And the first one, non-living things have cells, whether you agreed or disagreed. If you said you disagree with that statement, you would be correct because non-living things do not have cells. Second one, cells are made mostly of water. You should have agreed with that one to have that one correct. I believe in the reading it said they're about 70% water. So in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on how prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells are similar and how they're different. We'll learn what those two words mean, and then what do the structures in a cell do. The size and shape of a cell relates to its job or its function. Okay, cells can come in many different shapes and sizes, and those cells are made of different structures that do different jobs to help them stay alive. So just on the right hand side of this slide here, you can see a couple of different types of cells. Nerve cells have a very long part of the cell, and they have the different projections coming off that send signals that they collect with information. Red blood cells kind of look like almost a donut. They're disc shaped. And then this green one is actually from a plant. It's a type of xylem, which are the tubes that carry water and other substances through plant stems. So now we're getting into some general cell parts. The cell membrane is a flexible covering that protects the inside of a cell from the environment outside of a cell. And so you do not necessarily need to write all of this down. So I did the example here. It says it's the flexible covering that protects the cell. It's the outer covering in plant cells. So I added that little piece of information to us. Now for your drawing of this one, so pause the video and write that down if you have not already. You could also write down cell wall once if you'd like to take that out of the definition that is there. So the drawing for the cell membrane, we're going to do two drawings here. If we're talking about an animal cell, very simply, it's the outer layer, okay? And like I said, that's in an animal cell. So I'm just going to write animal in there as best I can. And then in a plant cell, I'll make that one green, just because plants are green. Plant cells usually are rectangular. And in a plant cell, the cell membrane is the second layer in. So that first layer inside is the cell membrane in a plant cell. Now for possible model items, we're going to be building a cell model later this week, and so just maybe be brainstorming as we get closer and get more information about that project of what you could use in your cell model to represent the cell membrane. All right, the next term is the cell wall. And so over in the slideshow, it says a cell wall is a stiff membrane outside the cell membrane that protects a cell from attack by viruses and other harmful organisms. Okay, so you can pause the video, copy that down. You do not need to copy it all word for word. I'm just going to go ahead and put a text box here and try and type that in. Stiff and usually it gives structure also, or shape. Now for your diagram, really you could kind of copy the same one. So I'm going to take my scissors tool here and I'm going to copy that plant, tap on it, duplicate, and move the duplicate down here. Then erase my little arrow and change it to a different color just so it stands out a little better. And so the cell wall is the outside layer in a plant cell. So we're there, we've got it. All right, moving on. So the next word that we're going to be looking at is the cytoskeleton. And the cytoskeleton, they are used for maintaining the shape of an animal cell. And so in this picture, you can see them. They are labeled here, the cytoskeleton. This is a picture from the textbook. And so they are all these just stick-shaped structures, okay? And they are kind of almost like a web inside of the cell that helps give it shape and move. So I'm going to copy part of this down. I'm going to use the text box again just because that seems to work a little bit better in these small boxes. So there's the function that we're going to put in for the cytoskeleton. For your drawing, I'm going to kind of leave that up to you. We can go back and look at this again. But if we were to just draw a basic cell, we're going to have some other parts in here also. And so we'll just sort of draw them. But the cytoskeleton, that's going to be these sticks that help give it shape. I'll draw an arrow there to note those are what we're talking about here. All right, the next one is the cytoplasm. Sorry, technical difficulties here. Here's a picture of a plant cell. That last one was an animal cell. Here we go. Cytoplasm, fluid inside a cell that contains most of the cell's water, salts, and other molecules in the cytoskeleton. And so you can write that down. I think for the sake of time, for some of these, I'm going to stop writing them in because you don't need to watch me type. So cytoplasm, I would make sure you have that it is fluid inside the cell, contains salts and molecules, and it fills the empty space between cell parts. For your diagram of the cytoplasm, I think we could just copy the same one again. So you can use that scissors tool in Notability, and we'll duplicate it, drag it down into the next box, but we do not need this arrow. And our cytoplasm is going to be what fills the empty space in between the cells. So we're looking at right there. It's going to look like this arrow is pointing at nothing. So that's our cytoplasm. Next, we're going to be talking about different types of cells. So most cells are put into two groups. There are prokaryotic cells and there are eukaryotic cells. And so the difference between those has to do with their having a nucleus or not having a nucleus. And so for our definitions, most of the prokaryotic cells are unicellular and they are called prokaryotes, but they have no nucleus and they lack a lot of the different cell parts. We could use a fancier word for that. We could say unicellular. The eukaryotic cells, those are going to be the cells that have a nucleus. And here's a picture of a prokaryotic cell. So you can make that drawing there on your sheet. A lot of times they're just represented by an oval. They've got these hair-like structures. Sometimes a tail-like structure. It's called a flagella. And they just have some squiggly stuff inside here and some dots. That real simple drawing because they're very simple cells. So these are mostly bacteria. Now plants, animals, fungus, and protists, those are called eukaryotic cells. They have their genetic material inside of a membrane, and so with them you would say that they have a nucleus. And they can be multicellular. And that's going to be sort of a basic snapshot of those. They are more complex, and they have structures that are called organelles. And so you can copy down this definition onto your chart. All right, then we've just got two more. We're not going to do a drawing of the organelles because they can come in many different shapes and sizes, and a lot of the things you're going to be drawing are going to be organelles. I forgot to do this eukaryotic cell, and so we can put that, we can just take this diagram here, copy it, and put that down there. We could add some other structures to it, which we will be identifying later, but we'll just put some more dots in there. Another structure over here that kind of looks like Wi-Fi, but that's going to be a basic eukaryotic cell. The nucleus is found inside of a eukaryotic cell, and so let's borrow this same drawing again that we were just using. We're going to duplicate that guy, put him down here. We do need to erase our arrow, and our nucleus is going to be this dark colored large structure here. All right, and then next we've got the nucleolus. But before we do that, we'll put in our function here. Let's just write down directs cell's activity and contains genetic information stored in DNA. So if you look at the definition on the left-hand side there, really you're just doing the second half of that sentence, and that's what you're going to copy down. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to make you watch me type this. We've done too much of that already. Next one, the nucleolus, is found inside of the nucleus. And usually when we see that in a drawing, we are going to take that same drawing and inside of it, we'll duplicate that drawing again. And we need to move our arrow. And inside of the nucleus, there's going to be another small structure. So we're going to switch to a different color so we can identify that a little bit better. Not that. So you're going to put a dot inside of your nucleus, and that dot is going to be your nucleolus. That's how it's usually represented. It's just a dot inside of the nucleus. Okay. Our next one, chromatin, is a word that our book kind of skips over, and so it is not in our textbook, but I feel as though it is an important vocabulary term, and so I put it on here. Where you're going to see that is found inside of the nucleus also. And so if we're going to do a drawing here, we just drew the nucleolus. So I'm going to use red to represent that, and we'll switch over to that blue again. That was our nucleus. So if this is the nucleus, all right, we are basically just zooming in here on what we just did. Inside the nucleus, we have small thread-like structures. They kind of almost sometimes look just like spaghetti on a plate, and those are going to be your chromatin inside of the nucleus. Okay, so we're going to stop there for today. I will get the other video for this posted later today, and then we'll have that to finish up for tomorrow, or if you want to finish that up later today, you certainly can. So, sorry this is kind of a rough video, but we're breaking it up over 2 days, and hopefully that helps. Thank you.